Okay, so I didn't really have a podcast or YouTube video planned to be released today, but North Melbourne have just sacked David Noble, and as a very frustrated North Melbourne member, I am going to break it down and talk about it a little bit, and I'm pretty mad. So at about 10 a.m. this morning, Sonia Hood sent all members, with someone on her behalf, I should say, sent email out to all members about 10 a.m. that David Noble had mutually parted ways. First off, I don't believe that it was mutual at all. I think David, as a person, got a lot of integrity, especially as a coach, but also as a person in general. I don't think that it went down where he's like, oh, you know what, you guys think to sack me because, this isn't really for me. And like, yep, okay, cool, let's just both end it. It didn't happen like that. I can fucking guarantee it mutually parted ways. It's just that he would have been a gentleman and be like, okay, I understand. You don't think I'm the right person for the job. Okay. There's no point fighting because you already made your decision. And that's the problem. The decision has already been made by over a week, because news brought at the end of last week was that by Tom Brown and multiple people that they were looking at sacking David Noble. And then we had one of our best games of the year, albeit not a win. Now looking back, I thought to myself, well, maybe if we can win against Collingwood, maybe David can save his job. But in saying that, I don't think winning one game should really save a coach their job, or the other way around. So I think that was a bit of wishful thinking as a member. I'm just very frustrated because they hired David Noble at the end of 2020, knowing that they were rebuilding at the time, or were going to rebuild. And now we're just over halfway through his second season and he gets the sack. And they've clearly been thinking about this for a while. It's not a snap decision. Jeff Walsh has come in to oversee and do a review. He used to be at the club 2 separate times. And the second time was when we were quite successful, making back-to-back prelims in 14 and 15, and he left at the end of 16. So he's got a great footy mind, and he's only been here not even a week, I don't think. So I don't think he's come in, his first day. He's like, sack David Noble. Clearly the decision was made by the board and by the powers that be that he wasn't the right person for the job. I just am really frustrated. It's not rocket surgery. I'm not in the AFL, never played AFL. I am not very good at footy, but I am a fan of North Melbourne. I'm a member of North Melbourne, and I'm also a very big fan of the AFL in general. And what I don't get by a lot of these clubs over the last 15, 20 years, when rebuild was really started to use as a normal term by a lot of clubs and all that, every club that's come out and said, we are rebuilding, we are 100% rebuilding from scratch. They've hired a person knowing that they're rebuilding, and most of the time it's been a new coach come in as they're rebuilding. Rarely has it been a coach who's already been in the position of a coach and they say, look, we're rebuilding, stay on for longer. That hasn't happened a lot. It has happened. To say it hasn't happened is a lie, but it hasn't happened very often. More likely than not, they sack a coach and they think, okay, let's reset, let's start again, we'll get a new coach, start from scratch. Now, every club that's done this, Melbourne, Brisbane, North Melbourne, all clubs recently, Carlton, you look back all the coaches they've gone through, and not only that, but the coach that has been hired as soon as they've announced a rebuild hasn't lasted more than 2 years, maybe 3, but it's usually no more than 2. Now, you're telling me that a board of people at a club sit down and think, okay, we're rebuilding, we know we're not going to be very competitive. Obviously, each club will probably have different tiers of what they think is competitive compared to the list they know they have, right? But every club will sit down and think, okay, we're going to be competitive, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Sorry, not going to be competitive, do this, do that. The coach we get in, we know they're not going to be very competitive ladder-wise, and wins, they're going to come at very hard times, hard-fought wins. There's going to be no easy wins, blah, blah, blah. But let's set a roadmap. The first 2 years especially, let's aim for 3 wins a year. If we get to 2 wins, okay, all good. Not, you got to set yourself little goals. But every time you have a look at Dean Bailey, and then you had Mark Neild as well. You then have Guy McKenna at Gold Coast, who wasn't even a real build coach. He was the first coach of the franchise, was then let go too early, in my opinion. He was there a bit longer than a couple of years, I know, but then you have a look at Matthew Knights at Essendon when they were going really, really badly. He got sacked for James Hird, and that's a different scenario altogether, because that was kind of like what Buckley did to Malthouse, but that was a different position because they were a premiership team compared to where Essendon were when they sacked Knights for Hurd. But I don't understand why clubs will do this, set all this in motion, and like North Melbourne did this year, get to round 15, 16, 17, it doesn't matter, and then sack the coach without even giving him 40, 45, 50 games to rebuild. And not everything is his fault. He doesn't have 100% say on recruiting. He doesn't have 100% say on trade. He doesn't have 100% say on everything. Yeah, he's got a big say, but it's not always come down to him. I'm sure if it come down to him, it'd be a different scenario. But he's just a scapegoat at the moment because I don't like using these terms, but the media pretty much bully a lot of clubs to sack a coach, and then they're the first ones to say, "Oh, you got to feel sorry for him. You can't always blame the coach." But you guys have been on Noble all year, knowing that this is his second year of rebuild, and he's getting the sack, and you guys push for it. Now that it's happened, all these media personalities have come out in defense of him. Are you serious? You're not the whole reason, but you're the part of the reason why a man has been sacked without even giving a good opportunity or a good reason. And I know we averaged, our loss rate was 50 points or more. It's really, really bad. I know that. But to sack a coach, not even at the end of the year, to think, okay, let's do an end of season review. Let's have a look at things. Let's compare it to other clubs in the past that have rebuilt and see where they are. Okay, Melbourne was worse off than what we were, or Carlton were the same as what we were when they rebuilt. Maybe we'll hold on to Noble for a year and see if he can progress from there. No. They just snap their fingers and he's gone. I don't know if they're hoping to get Clarkson or not, or I don't know. None of that has been revealed. That if maybe they were talking to Clarkson, he's like, yep, but I only coach if, obviously, Noble gets a sack at the end of this year. And now the whole landscape of coaching has changed because the only position available is probably Giants. Ratton signed on at St Kilda. Hinkley's probably kept his job at Port, turning them around. So there's only really one job at Giants. But now there's two. There's one at North Melbourne and Giants. I think Clarkson will be more likely to coach North Melbourne than the Giants for a multitude of reasons. Because we're Melbourne based and we are fully rebuilding and we have a young list, and we all know how he likes to have a young list and build them the way that he wants them to be built. But like Sam Mitchell Hawthorn now, he wanted to gut their list as best he could and then train these players the way he wants them to play. But if that's the case, then no coach is going to feel comfortable signing on to coach a rebuilding team, knowing that if a better coach gets the sack or is made available, they're going to be pushed to the side halfway through their second fucking year of coaching a team. And I know that I can't really compare like I have been doing to Carlton and Melbourne and other teams that have been rebuilding in the past 10, 15 years, but you kind of have to, because I know every club situation is different, the money's different, the playing list is different, the whole landscape of a club is completely different to each other. But when you're talking about setting an example and really, I guess, setting a roadmap, if North Melbourne really, really set a roadmap and thought, okay, if Noble hasn't won 6 games in his second year of coaching North Melbourne, just after halfway, then he's getting the sack. There's no fucking way that was a roadmap they sent. Set. So this has been, I think, a knee-jerk reaction. And like I said, this can't be put on Jeff Walsh. There is no way that he made the decision. Maybe they were 99% on the decision, and when he came on board, they said, look, this is what we're thinking of doing. Do you agree with it? Or whatever. But even 24 hours of being in the job, because this news broke at the end of last week. And you can't tell me that the media just assumed or made a good guess that this was happening, because they said middle of next week, and he was announced this morning, Wednesday morning, that he was getting the sack. So it either happened last night or early this morning when they sat down with Noble and said, look, we're parting ways mutually, which is bullshit. Well, I've already spoken about that. The next question is, okay, is everyone going to get excited when Lee Adams, the coach of the VFL and the senior assistant coach, if he gets us to a win or two, are they going to get excited and sign him if they can't get Clarkson? Because that would be a really, really bad decision in my opinion. He's still a young coach, but he shows promise and all that, but we made that mistake with Ray Shaw, and that's nothing against Ray Shaw, but we made that mistake. Let's not make it again. Carlton made it with Teague, although I think Teague was screwed over as well, but a different story for a different day. I know I've been ranting on a lot, and it's probably only North Melbourne supporters watching this, if anyone is watching this. Like I said, this isn't planned, it's literally me just talking, but I've been bullish about this the whole time, is if clubs are going to say they're rebuilding, no coach is going to want to do it, because it's proven now that every coach that's been signed on after announcing or at the time of announcing the rebuilding hasn't been given more than 2 years, maybe 3 if they're lucky. And, we can't blame everything on injuries and all this, but North Melbourne have had injuries to some of our better players, and everyone's saying that a lot of our current 22 aren't up to AFL standard. And that's true. That's probably true. But when you're getting injuries to players that are, or that, sorry, my computer's off, that aren't up to the standard and they're getting injured, and we're going to have to go lower in standards to the VFL to get these players that haven't played before or aren't up to it. And a lot of our games this year the teams have been filled with players that probably shouldn't be playing AFL at all, but we have to because we've had injuries to our players that maybe aren't even good enough or just as good to play AFL. So, I've been doing this for a bit over 10 minutes now, but I'm very frustrated as North Melbourne supporter and member for my whole life, and I hope a lot of North Melbourne supporters are really angry this morning because it shows that you care and it shows that this was the wrong decision. I'm not saying that Noble was definitely the right person for the rebuild or anything like that. We don't know. But to not even sack a guy at the end of the season once the season's over is just ridiculous. We've been here before with Brad Scott. Brad Scott got the sack. We then had Ray Shaw take over. He wowed some people. He then got the job. He then left at the end of 2020, which I don't blame Ray Shaw or anything like that for leaving. He clearly had issues and reasons to leave, and he's really enjoying Gold Coast with the runner role that he's doing now, which is fantastic. But we've had, I don't know how many coaches we've had in the last 5 years now, but it's crazy. We've gone from Brad Scott to the Ray Shaw to David Noble, and then a new coach coming in at the end of the year. And then you also include Lee Adams, that'll be taking over as interim coach at the end of the year. So technically it's 5 coaches we've had. That's a problem. That's a problem to me. I don't know if a coach should sign a clause saying that they can't get sacked until the end of the 3rd season. I don't know. No club will probably sign that, but these coaches really need to fucking try and save their own backs because the clubs clearly don't give a shit about any of them, unless your name's Clarkson or Ross Lyon. But yeah, I am really, really frustrated. I think that I would have given David Noble 1 more year, and when I mean 1 more year, I mean at the end of his 3rd season, not halfway fucking through it. But if they really had to sack him, then it had to be at the end of season 2, not just over halfway through. That's just ridiculous to me. Doesn't make any sense. He's stop, start, and that's what rebuilds are. I mean, you see other clubs in the world do rebuilds and they sign a coach to a long period of time. Not always, but most of the time, more often than not, compared to AFL. They'll stick that person and they'll rebuild a lot quicker. To me, if you have Noble, okay, 1.5 years, okay, done, goodbye. You're then resetting because all these young players were already getting confused with David Noble's game plan. What do you think is going to happen when they're just starting to find their feet and understand, get some good form? Then a new coach comes in. So Lee Adams comes in. Maybe he changed a little bit like what McVeigh's done at Giants. Changes a bit, and then they don't give him the job. A new coach, say it is Clarkson. He comes in, changes game plan. That's going to put these players back and the game plan back even more. So you're extending the rebuild. Now, someone like Clarkson or whoever Ross Lyon might come in, prove me wrong, get the players in a really good spot next year and win games and not finish on bottom. I doubt it, but it could happen. Anyway, I'll end this video, but I'm just sick of these clubs rebuilding and then stop and start. Back a coach in for at least 3 years. It has to be, if you're rebuilding. There's other scenarios where if the team's really competitive and a coach leaves or gets sacked for whatever reason, and they're not making the finals with the same list that did 2 years prior, then different story. But this is a fucking reboot, alright? So anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Goose of All Trades podcast. I might do an even better video about this in the future when I've got my studio set up and have some actual co-hosts and stuff. And I'm still doing this on my computer right now, but I'm hoping to change this. But thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe, I'm Goose of All Trades. This podcast will literally talk about anything and everything. It's a take on Jack of all trades, so there's not one topic I do, but I focus a lot on sport, movies, games, but politics, I will literally talk about anything. So if you want to see any topics you want me to talk about, comment down below. If you want to make sure I don't miss anything, subscribe and like this video if you agree with my opinion. If not, comment down below and tell me why you think sacking David Noble right now was the right decision. I'm really intrigued. There's probably some good answers to that. So thanks for watching, every guys, and I'll catch you later. Thank you.